Wonderful to meet you all, and thank you for being here today. I've put the slides in the chat. At Citizens Climate Lobby, our solution to climate change is people. Because our governments can only do what the people allow them to do, and a healthy democracy has an exchange of ideas done in a polite way between the people and the government. And we train you how to do that. And it really works. And it's how we can advance our democracies and climate change. So by the end of this 2 weeks, we hope that you will be able to absorb our history, including our and culture, including our mission, our values, and the 5 levers of political will. Articulate the benefits of carbon pricing and border carbon adjustments, and learn how to be an effective citizen lobbyist. We were established in 2007. There's over 140 active chapters outside the United States of America. We have 21,000 supporters organized in 76 countries, with 51 countries with active CCI chapters. Canada was the first non-USA country to join. Australia and Sweden joined in 2013, and in 2015, David Michael joined us. And look at all these groups we have on the continent. And there are more. Our founder was Marshall Saunders, and he realized that ordinary people like me and you would have to organize, educate ourselves, give up our hopelessness, and gain the skills to be effective with our governments. And our mission is to build the political will for a livable world by empowering citizen volunteers to have breakthroughs in the exercise of their personal and political power. So I'm going to stop for a minute, stop sharing. And I have a question for all of you. What does a livable world mean to you? Let's get this discussion going. What does a livable world mean to you?
A livable world for me is one which promotes development, ensuring that the future generation also have resources for which they would also be able to develop. So in other words, we are living in this generation and we are not compromising the ability of future generations to also live and also develop. Thank you very much.
Oh, I love how you put development in there. Yes, the Sustainable Development Goals are so intertwined with the climate goals. Anyone else want to share what a livable world means to you?
Yes, I can try.
Oh, please go.
A livable world to me means having a very good environment, creating jobs for people, having a good livelihood among ourselves, and also taking social justice into consideration.
Yes, the balancing of the human world with the livable, the world that we live in. Anyone else want to share what a livable world means to you?
Let me comment. Can I comment?
Oh, I would love to hear you. Please go ahead.
Okay, a livable world to me is a world that empowers not just like the current generation, but also the younger ones. A livable world is healthy, is a livable world is like sustainable to me. That's what a livable world is. And a livable world pioneers change and innovation, basically.
Oh, those are very deep thoughts. Thank you. Maybe one or two more people, and then we will continue. So would anyone else like to share what a livable world means to you?
Okay, can I come in?
Oh, yes, please do.
Yeah, I think a livable world is a world that we see ourselves as one. And also most importantly, a world that there is no disease and hunger.
Mm. Yes, seeing ourselves as one, and yeah, disease
No
and
disease
hunger.
and hunger. Yeah.
Yeah, out of the way. And that's beautiful. One more sharing if you wish. Anyone else like to share what a livable world means to them?
Life is really too proud. Can you hear me?
Is that Cyprian?
Yeah, that's Cyprian.
Okay, yeah, please, I can hear you.
To me, a livable world is a one that uses resources sustainably and mindfully, and also free from pollutants.
Oh, thank you for that. So, keeping in mind our mission helps us move forward. And I really believe the way that Citizens Climate Lobby works keeps this in mind at all time. It's so deep. And if you're not speaking, if you can mute your microphones, that would be great. So at Citizens Climate International, we have 4 defined program areas. Today, we're concerned about volunteer policy advocacy and carbon pricing, but do note that we also do a lot of civic diplomacy, and you can pay, but that's not what we're doing today. But if you're really interested in working at the international level, do pay attention to some of the emails and projects that we have. And we also have kind of a think tank / publication area called Resilience Intelligence, which really aims to see the big picture, the huge global landscape of how the politics and the finances and the environment and the social justice and all that intertwines. But for today's purposes, at Citizens Climate International, we're focused on the left side, volunteer policy advocacy and carbon pricing. We have 7 core values. And I was so glad to hear that your focus, your definition of a livable world did not mean having a price on carbon pollution, although that is our focus. So that focus on carbon pricing, carbon pollution gives us time. It is our superpower and will actually be an important step towards creating a livable world, as you will see, because this price on carbon pollution not only will cut greenhouse gas emissions, it will also reduce inequality. So it's not the only thing we need to do, but it is definitely our focus here on Citizens Climate International. We have integrity. We see all the things that need to be done. We support that. We don't necessarily have to have carbon pricing to win, so to speak. What we want is a livable world at the end. So if we can get all those things that you defined as a livable world, like sustainability, like listening to youth, like equity, like reducing income inequality, all those things, if we can get there by another policy, we will certainly support it. We listen very deeply, and we are very open to new ideas. So yes, our focus is carbon pricing, but we do also see the bigger picture. And at the end of the day, we want a livable world. And the reason why we stake in the ground carbon pricing, this carbon pricing policy, is to say, okay, politicians, we know this policy will achieve that. Will you support this or show us an equivalent policy that can have the same impact as this carbon pricing policy? So focus is our superpower, but really important to us is integrity, listening deeply, being open to new ideas. We are optimistic. We believe that most humans are good, and we see the good in everyone, and we draw that out of people, and that's what helps us create a livable world. Because I just know from a lifetime experience, most people want what's best for the next generations. Yes, there are a few that don't, but almost all of us do. And if we work together in a very collaborative and deep listening and polite way, we can get there. And that is the skills that Citizens Climate International reminds us to keep working on. Help us evolve as human beings, and we will get there. This transformation that we are going through has the potential to really make a better world if we are determined to do that together. We totally embrace diversity. Yeah, I can't imagine doing this work without having everybody on board. We listen to every, age group, from youth to elders. Everyone, all people are welcome from all over the world, from every background into our organization. And in fact, this is how we build the political will. Personal power, that's you, the individual. If you ever get the chance to lobby or have lobbied, and you watch someone say something to a politician, and you see that politician transform and change their mind, you see magic happen. So it's the individual personal power and political power of each and every one of you that is the energy behind the work that we do. And core to what we do is relationships. We build relationships with each other, with our politicians, and within our community. And that is how we win. And I'm so sorry I have a Canadian flag there. I forgot to change this slide. I will do that next week. We are nonpartisan. We are totally nonpartisan. We do not pick sides. We stay neutral. So now you're going to learn about how we work. Oh, that's the wrong title there. Okay. We have a way of training you through what are called laser talks. And I'm going to click on it. And this is how you begin to learn the talking points. We teach you step by step over a few months how to speak about carbon pricing and various issues like an expert. And we have this page that is called a laser talk page, and it has every laser talk on it. And we're going to focus in on one. So what is a laser talk? A laser talk is a brief but powerful statement on a specific topic. And as you read these over the months that you are with us, you will begin to talk like an expert. So when you speak to your community or speak to your politicians, they will begin to trust you because every talking point that we have is vetted. And that's how you practice them. So we have carbon pricing laser talks if you really want to learn the details of it, carbon pricing around the world, climate income, border carbon adjustments, and the Canadian and the Australian carbon pricing policy. So that is for your reference. We're just going to learn one today. But before we do that, we need to talk about what is a price on carbon pollution. So does anybody want to share what is a price on carbon pollution, what it means, what you think it means? Anyone? It's okay. David Michael, you want to share?
No, Kathy. The network went off and I just got into the meeting.
Okay, all right, his network went off. Okay, so I'll just do this. A price on carbon pollution is an actual physical price on the pollution that is being put into the atmosphere. So there are three major ways to price pollution. There's cap and trade, which is also called the emissions trading scheme. So governments can put a cap on pollution and allow companies to trade underneath it, and then they can offset and do other things to keep their greenhouse gas pollution, which mainly comes from fossil fuels, below that certain level. But it's a very complicated scheme, and you need a lot of government infrastructure to do this properly. Another way to do this is through a carbon tax. The government can tax the pollution and then put it into programs. It's not a bad idea, but it's hard to get the price up really high because most people can't afford to pay taxes in the first place. The last way of pricing carbon pollution, and the way we've been advocating at Citizens Climate Lobby for almost 13 years, is climate income. So what we are proposing is to put an incrementally rising price on carbon pollution, give all the money back to the people, and include what are called border carbon adjustments or carbon border adjustment mechanisms or carbon tariffs. So this incrementally rising price on carbon pollution allows households, businesses, and industry to plan, knowing when a price on pollution from burning fossil fuels will make that economically not a good thing to do. And where clean energy will become way more possible. So this starts to trigger the change that we need very powerfully, and there's lots of economic data to support that. Giving the money back to the people does two things. One, it allows them to buffer or to absorb the shocks in the systems as it's changing, or to say that more simply, it gives them money to help pay for things as prices rise, but they get money back. But it also builds political will because people have enough money to survive. And lastly, this thing about border carbon adjustment mechanisms, I would like to say that when I was at COP27 in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt, I went to a session on border carbon adjustments with David Michael, hosted by the UK government and the Canadian government. And note that Africa, the continent, most countries will have common but differentiated responsibilities with regards to border carbon adjustments. So yes, they're coming, but the African countries and India, many South American countries, and much of Asia will have much lower carbon prices paid if they don't have a carbon price themselves, as the world rolls out border carbon adjustment mechanisms. And you will get used to this language as you keep training with us. And it takes about 6 months to get used to this. So climate income, gradually rising price on carbon pollution, all the money back to the people, and eventually include border carbon adjustment mechanisms. Or to put it in wording, it says, we place a fee on fossil fuels at the source, start at $15 a ton for carbon equivalent, increasing at $10 a ton annually. Return the revenues to households equally, protecting lower and middle class households, and include border carbon adjustments on goods imported from or exported to countries without an equivalent price on carbon. That's it. And Canada has this carbon pricing policy, and our country is studying it. This is a very complicated graph, but for those of you who really dig into lobbying into this, these slides are available, and we will give you more training on how to do this. But Canada has, instead of having border carbon adjustments, our heavy industries are under a different sort of carbon pricing policy where they pay much less carbon pricing than compared to small and medium-sized enterprises and consumers. But we all get the money back in Canada. It is the biggest chunk of emissions that will be reduced. And Austria now has this. And I'm just gonna, and so it puts money in your pocket. And in fact, this study from Nature, and Nature is a top peer-reviewed scientific magazine, a scientific periodical, it said that if all countries adopt the necessary uniform global carbon tax and then return the revenues to their citizens on an equal per capita basis, it will be possible to meet the 2-degree target while also increasing well-being, reducing inequality, and alleviating poverty. These results indicate that it is possible for a society to implement a strong climate action without compromising goals for equity and development. And remember, one of the things that was said earlier about a livable world is development. We need equity and development. And why is this so? Why do the lower income people come out ahead and it actually reduces income inequality? And that is because the richest 5% amongst us have a very high carbon footprint. So that pulls up the average. And thus people in the bottom 40% and the bottom 50% have a much lower carbon footprint than the average. So the green bar here on the left is the top 10%. They pull up the average so that the bottom 10% and bottom 40% and bottom 10% have a much lower average. So they get more money back in carbon fees than what they paid in the first place. So it actually reduces income inequality and cuts emissions at the same time. And there's similar data for Canada if you ever want to dig into it. So I've just got a few countries here and you're like, well, yeah, but that's Canada. What about, Africa? So know that the data holds up, like when dug down deeply for Canada, the United States, and Australia, that the bottom 2/3 do come out ahead. And if we look at what are the income distributions around the world through what is called Wolfram Alpha, we begin to understand that our income distribution across the world is quite similar. This is the Gini index, and this indicates the income inequality disparity. So the lower the number, the less the income inequality. And you can see that the highest, it's pretty similar when you dig down into the numbers on how income is distributed from the highest income to the lowest income. So that the take-home message is global patterns of wealth inequality are similar. Thus, one would expect most lower and middle incomes to come out ahead with climate income. And when you lobby your government, you can say, hey, you can cut emissions and reduce income inequality at the same time. And here are more countries, and I think I've got everybody here, but it pretty much holds out the same rate across Africa. Like most of the world has the same income inequality issues. So it's the single most powerful tool that we have to get to net zero. This is the last part I will do here. And then we will do a little bit of practicing lobbying, or just even look at it, and maybe next week do the practicing of lobbying so you can go back and look at these notes. I think I'm going to do that. Next week we'll practice lobbying. So anyways, last bit to learn. It's like, well, yeah, you keep saying that it really cuts emissions, but do you have proof? Well, we have thousands of economists that say it will. But a really beautiful thing to look at is the On-Roads Policy Simulator. And we looked at removing fossil fuel subsidies, subsidizing clean energy, maximizing tree growth, and carbon pricing on the sources of the global primary sources of energy, air pollution, and global temperatures at this modeling system called On-Roads, which is from Climate Interactive. Okay, I just got to mute somebody. There we go. And this, we've actually shown this to politicians, and maybe some of you are trained to use On-Roads. But anyways, this is what On-Roads looks like. You can set it up so one panel shows the global primary sources of energy, another one air pollution, and it shows the temperature over here, and it goes all the way up to 2100. And keep in mind, this is global, not country specific. And you can play with all these toggles at the bottom, and we can look at the impacts. So if we removed all fossil fuel subsidies globally, you barely see any temperature decrease, and that is because the fossil fuel industry is worth trillions, and these are only in the hundreds of billions of dollars. So it really would not have an impact on their bottom line. It does not make polluters pay. So removing all the subsidies is an important thing to do because it's morally wrong to subsidize your extinction. And also that money could be better spent. But at the end of the day, removing all the subsidies barely reduces global temperatures. You could maximize clean energy subsidies, and surprisingly, it only reduces emissions just by 0.4 degrees. And we have to do this in a way that benefits lower and middle income people, because if you do it wrongly, you will actually benefit the rich even more, because as we saw earlier, they are huge consumers of energy. Maximizing tree growth, important for biodiversity, important for cleaning water, important for so many reasons, but maximizing tree growth over the century will only reduce temperatures by 0.2 degrees. And carbon pricing, if you maximize it and give the money back to the people, you will reduce inequality and take a huge chunk of global temperature increase out of the way. So it can't get there alone, but it is this is a reason why we focus on it. So I'm going to stop there and answer any questions you may have about carbon pricing. And yeah, so I'm going to stop sharing and answer any questions you may have about carbon pricing. How can carbon, oh, that's a great question. How can carbon pricing be applied in a state with less or no industries? So, okay, so are you from, well, are you from Nigeria, Turfa? I can't remember. Or is it Kenya? I'm forgetting. Which state are you from? Which country are you from? It's a great question.
Yes, Stefan from Nigeria.
Yeah, okay.
Macaulay to repeat.
Okay, so I live in a province in Canada that doesn't produce fossil fuels either. Okay, so you put it, so when fossil fuels cross our border here in Canada, from whether it be from outside of Canada or whatever, when fossil fuels come into my province, my province applies a carbon price to it, and then we get the money back that way. So it can still be applied for sure. It's just when it crosses your border for consumption. Does that answer your question? Okay, cool. Any other questions about carbon pricing?
Yeah, Kachi, I want to ask a question. While you were speaking about the work that CCI does, you mentioned and you stressed on is how important it is to build relationship with political leaders or policymakers, as the case may be. And you also spoke about the need to be non-partisan. So my question will be, how do you do that? Because most times you build relationships with particular policymakers, and they tend to all be in a particular political party, particularly if they are the ones in government. And the opposition might be like, oh, you are working for this particular. So how do you build relationship and remain non-partisan? for the work that we do? Thank you.
Oh, that's a great question. Well, straightforward way to say it is that you approach all parties exactly the same way, and you don't show favoritism to one party or another. And what we say is we stand behind the politicians who will build political will for a livable world. So regardless of party, regardless of their policy, we cheer all of them on. And we tell politicians that, and we do this in a very open way. Another really critical thing to do is always be polite, especially on social media, because then they will trust you. So only be super critical when a politician deserves it, but most of the time, just keep cheering them on, and don't call them out in a negative way unless they've done something really horrible for the climate. So bottom line, just treat all politicians the same, treat them respectfully and politely. Tell them that you'll stand behind any politician who stands up for the climate. And when you're on social media or when you're in the mainstream media, treat them all equally. Don't be overly critical of them unless they really deserve it. Like, really be complimentary and polite. Was that helpful?
Yes, thank you very much, Kathy. That was really helpful.
Okay, that's a great question in the chat. Okay, so what institution collects and returns revenue back to the people? So I think that will all depend on your country. So in Canada, like we have a finance, division in our government, and they take that money and they determine what money goes back out to the citizens. So it's whatever that institution is in your government. So you actually have to lobby both your environment and your financial components of your government. That's a great question. Was that helpful? Yes. Okay, great. These are all wonderful questions. Any more questions about carbon pricing or how we work? And I just want to say I've been watching the campaign. Oh, can management of waste be part of carbon pricing? It can. I mean, you can include methane release from garbage dumps as part of how to price carbon pollution. So if a waste management company can't control or capture that methane that's produced at garbage dumps, then they would have to pay some sort of penalty. But I think management of another thing, yeah. So I think management of waste and carbon pricing are like two totally separate things. So I think learning to price pollution in general is really important. So here in Canada, we all pay extra taxes on top of all of our plastic garbage now. So that is paying for the plastic recycling programs here in Canada. So you can look at plastic pollution pricing as opposed to carbon pricing. You can look at taxing the methane released at garbage dumps as part of that. Yeah, so yes and no. So it's more of a pollution pricing idea, getting people in the state of mind that we must price pollution and all pollution, not just carbon pollution. I hope that was helpful. It's a good question. Any other questions? Okay, we only have 8 minutes left, and I'm going to leave you with one more question, and we will practice lobbying next week. And I'm going to encourage all of you to just look over the slides for today and the next week and learn that laser talk about how to do climate income. Just practice it 2 or 3 times. I'll show you what I'm talking about. But I would like for you to practice this one thing for next week. Say it, read it to yourself once or twice, and then say it out loud once or twice, and then try to say it without looking at it. This will take you about 10 minutes to do between now and next Tuesday. This next Tuesday, we're going to practice lobbying for carbon pricing. And next Tuesday, you're going to learn about how we get organized. Yes, we lobby, but we do other things as well. We work with media, grass tops, we develop our groups, and we also do grassroots outreach. So this is one last thought before we go, a little bit of a discussion. We are citizen lobbyists, not experts. I'm not even an expert. And I want you to think, how do they differ? What's the difference between a citizen lobbyist and an expert lobbyist? And then what does that mean for your tactics when lobbying? So in the next 6 minutes, we'll discuss this, and then we'll be done for this week. But you're being trained to be a citizen climate lobbyist. You're not an expert, you're a citizen lobbyist. What's the difference between the two, and what does that mean for your tactics when you lobby? You can type it in the chat, or you can say it out loud. Anyone?
Yeah, I have a view on it. I think as a citizen lobbyist and not an expert, I'm talking from a point of view that is relatable, not from a statistical or tactical point of view, more from someone who has experienced what is going on and who is speaking to other people. So my tactic will be less tactical. My tactic will be less statistical and more approachable and relational. Yeah.
Oh, that's perfect. Less statistical and more approachable and relationable. Exactly. Politicians need to hear from you. And yeah, you're building that relationship, and you don't have to have all those numbers at the tip of your fingertips. It's more about building that relationship. That's hitting the nail on the head. Great work. Anybody else?
Yeah, I would say that being a lobbyist and not an expert will probably being able to convey our message via relationship building and not being too scientific or factual, but presenting whatever our demands are or our asks, as the case may be, in very clear and simple terms, while being respectful and also being very courteous. Thank you very much.
Yes, very courteous. I like that. And yeah, more relational and less statistics. That's great. Anyone else? And if you don't, go ahead. Anyone? Then I have one more question. How does it make you feel that you don't have to be an expert? Like, you imagine you're going to lobby a politician and you're like, I'm not supposed to be the expert. I'm just a citizen. What does it make you feel? Like, how does it make you feel about doing this work?
Sorry, Kathy, I didn't get you.
Oh, okay. Let me try this again. Okay, so we're not experts. We're citizen lobbyists. So I think sometimes when people go to lobby, they think they have to be an expert, but knowing that you don't have to be the expert, that you're just there to build relationships and and give your perspective from the community that you're living in to your politician. Does this give you more confidence? Does it make you feel more relaxed about doing this work? Like, how does it make you feel to know that you do not have to be an expert when you go lobby?
I think I'm going to answer this question also. Just my own 2 cents on it. I feel like as a youth or as a young person, that is empowering for me to be able to talk to like powerful people about stuff like this. Is empowering, makes me feel like, or a normal person like me, a young African girl, can actually make a difference. So yeah.
Yes, empowered. Exactly. That's excellent.
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead, Uchi.
Yes, I think first of all, you have to bear in mind that what you have to consider the stakeholders' participation that will be equal of a co-designing and a co-creation in any aspect. They will be involved directly, and their influence also will be considered. Not for you to be taken as an expert, but at least to let them know that their own views are also considered in whatever thing you're doing.
Yes, the co-creation is so important. And in fact, under the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, the UNFCCC, under Article 6 of the UNFCCC and under Article 12 of the Paris Agreement, in a section that is called Action for Climate Empowerment, and I put that in the chat, our governments are required to talk with us and to engage with us with regards to the climate crisis, because they need to hear from us, because it is our right as citizens to be heard, and they need to hear from us, because what's happening in my backyard right now in Northern Ontario is way different than what's happening in your backyards all across the continent. And so there are very specific things that they need to do to make and hear about in order to make the best decisions possible. So yeah, the co-creation of this is really important, and it's contained within Article 6 of the UNFCCC and Article 12 of the Paris Agreement that our governments must speak with us. It's actually essential. So that is a great point and a great place to stop. So you have one tiny bit of homework this week if you can do it. And don't worry, it's going to take you like 2 minutes. And if you're a procrastinator or you forget, don't worry, you will be fine next week. To learn, just to learn how to the laser talk on climate income, which is in the slides I just shared with you. David Michael will be sharing this recording with all of you. And if you can just learn that laser talk, that will make next week a lot easier, because we're going to practice lobbying, and then we are going to talk about how to get organized. So I am done, and I'm 1 minute over, and that's integrity. Citizens Climate Lobby likes to be on time. Thank you, everyone, for being here. David Michael, do you want to say anything before we close? Are you able to talk, Mike? He's having internet issues today. Okay. And if you don't mind, I would love to take your picture. I can. Is that all right? So if you can turn on your cameras, I would love to get a picture of today's gang. I'm going to just call up my camera, my snipping tool. So We'll give this one more minute. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here today. Okay, count of 3. Oops, I did it wrong. 1, 2, 3. There we go. Okay. Excellent. Peace out. Thank you, everyone. I'll see you next week, same time. And
Thank you.
you're welcome. And know that your government's hearing from you about this issue is going to make a world of difference. There's a big changes coming, and we help our governments. We can really create a better world together. It's only going to take a small number of us. Thank you, everyone. I'm going to go now. Blessings to you all. See you next week. Bye. So my name is Kathy Orlando. I am calling in from Canada. And what I hope to get out of today's call is to get to know some amazing climate advocates from the continent, all over the continent. So go ahead, David Michael.
Yeah, thank you. Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. My name is David Michael K. Ungwa. I'm the Africa Regional Coordinator for Citizens Climate International, and I'm joining you from Abuja in Nigeria. What I'm hoping to get today is those new faces, those new volunteers who come in with a lot of energy, positive energy. I'm hoping to see you, and I'm hoping that you learn and stay with us on the path of putting a price on carbon. Thank you.
Abraham, Joseph.
Hello, everyone. My name is Joseph Ibrahim. I'm coming from Nigeria. What I'm hoping to get from this meeting is I'm hoping to get to know more about carbon pricing and see how we can implement that now.
Okay, so let me pass it to Al Hassan from Sierra Leone.
Good afternoon to you all. I'm Anasan Sisi, CCL coordinator for Sierra Leone. I'm hoping to learn more about carbon pricing and meet new faces and learn from each other. Thank you. I'll pass it on to Francis.
Okay, well, Francis is not ready. Let me go with Clement Kwakukumi. You can unmute yourself, Clement. Okay, if Clement is not ready, alphabetically is Eliazar Kamara. Okay, Clement, go ahead.
Okay, I'm Clement Kwakukumi from Ghana. And I'm expecting to see like-minded people today, new volunteers who are ready to share something about the environment and also ready to save this planet.
Thank you, Clement. Let me pass it to Kamara Eliazar. Kamara, you need to unmute yourself.
Hello?
Yes, hi.
Yeah, good afternoon. I'm Eliza Kamara, a volunteer of School Green Club. I'm happy to be here to do the training.
Where are you joining us from? Which country?
Sierra Leone.
Sierra Leone, okay, thank you, welcome. Okay, let me pass it to Kennedy.
Hello, everybody. I hope you're all doing well. My name is Kennedy, and I am a volunteer from Kenya. And what I hope to get from this engagement is understanding how we can be involved in government and in.
Thank you, Kennedy, welcome. Let me pass it to Nangon Jaffet.
Thank you.
Jaffet? You can unmute yourself quickly. Okay, so while Jaffet is trying to unmute himself, I see Cyprian Ogoti.
Hi everyone, my name is Cyprian Ogoti, a volunteer from Kenya.
Thank you, Cyprian. Ogoti, if you are, sorry, Jaffet, if you can unmute yourself, go ahead. Otherwise, I pass it over to Simon Koroma. Simon, are you there? Otefa, get ready. Tefa Azenda.
Hello, Simon talking from Sierra Leone.
Okay, Simon, thank you. Welcome. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. I'm a volunteer from Sierra Leone, Citizen Climate Lobby, Sierra Leone. Glad to be in this forum. I hope we will share ideas together. Thank you.
Thank you, Ernest. Simon, sorry, when I saw your name, Koroma, I was thinking about the former Sierra Leonean president. Are you related? Okay, so let me pass it to Tefa Azenda.
Hi, I'm Tifa Azanda, calling in from Makurdi, in the state of Nigeria. I'm really glad to be here, and I wish to learn more so that we'll be able to sustain the environment for sustainable future. Thank you.
Thank you, Tefa. Shisom, if you can hear us, you can unmute and introduce yourself. Why Uchi Dominic gets ready.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Chisom. I'm a volunteer from GSEP. Yeah, I'm calling from Abuja, Nigeria.
Thank you, Chisom. Welcome. Uchi Dominic, you have the floor.
Hello, everyone. I'm Uchi Dominic, volunteer from the Benue State area. I hope for good interaction on the carbon pricing, mitigation, and adaptation approaches with the resiliency. Thank you.
Thank you. So a few more persons to go, Kati. Abiola, Oluwaseyi.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Oluwaseyi Abiola, joining from Osun State, Nigeria. I'm happy to be here today.
Thank you very much, Shay. Who else do we have? Francis. Francis, if you can hear us, unmute yourself.
Hello.
And, yes, hi.
Hello, good day all. My name is Ewodagi Francis, calling in from Abuja, Nigeria.
Okay, thank you, Francis. I think we have all introduced ourselves. So we have people from Nigeria, Sierra Leone, Kenya, majorly here. Kati, I'm still expecting new volunteers from Botswana to join us, but you can go ahead and commence the training. Thank you.